Why do poor white people vote against themselves time and time again? They vote for Trump and the other MAGA politicians only to have every promise broken, prices go up, social supports evaporate.
Hi guys, welcome back to Bube React. Today we are diving into something that honestly blows my mind every time. Why so many poor MAGA supporters keep voting against themselves. Now, when I say against themselves, I mean these are people struggling with healthcare, with no job, with the cost of living, yet they keep backing the policies and politicians that make life even harder for them. And that's the crazy part because they would defend those same politicians with their last breath. So the big question is why? Now let's break it down. I will be right back.
Why do poor white people vote against themselves time and time again? They vote for Trump and the other MAGA politicians only to have every promise broken, prices go up, social supports evaporate. Here's why. First, remember what I talked about recently, the psychological wage of whiteness. That term was coined by W.E. Du Bois to describe poor white folks being paid with social status rather than decent living conditions. They're convinced by the elites that they're better than black folks, better than immigrants, Latinos, LGBTQ folks. They're convinced that being white puts them in the same league as the elites. Of course, the elites know otherwise, but the poor whites buy it because they're grasping at straws. Second, they are convinced that the people they're supposedly better than are the big threat in their lives. Not the rich, not the corporations or the politicians, but immigrants, black folks, welfare queens, LGBTQ, criminals, the usual scapegoats. Third, the elites promise protection to poor white folks. A politician comes along and says, I'll keep those people in their place, or I'll kick them out, or I'll lock them up. Or, more politely, I'll defend your values. They don't say, I'll make your life better. Well, they say it, they just don't mean it. They'll say, I'll make sure they don't get ahead of you. Fourth, they vote for the punishment, not the policy. When a law gets passed that slashes public housing or school funding or food aid, they think, good, that'll stop those lazy freeloaders. And they do some mental gymnastics that make them believe it's worth losing those things for their own families in order to see those problematic black people and immigrants and so forth being punished. It gets to a point where just seeing those guys being punished is reward enough, which is pretty sick, but that's how behavior works. Their housing, schools, and groceries are on the chopping block too, but they blame that on Biden. Always a scapegoat. They get hit by the same policies they were told would punish the others, and they blame the wrong people. The system fails them, but they've been trained to blame the scapegoats, not the cause, which is the rich people, the people they voted for. So they think the problem is still those people, not the fact that they were personally manipulated by the people they voted for. They're basically saying, I'll take the hit as long as you don't help them, or worse, as long as you hurt them. That is the psychological wage Du Bois was talking about, the trade-off between material security for racial status. And that's a crying shame, folks. One share, like, save, and comment shows that you care about white people taking responsibility for racism in America. This work is important to me, and I want to keep doing it. If you want to support me, consider a donation of any size to coffee.com/Kelly Snyder. And yeah, spelling is important. Get curious.
I didn't know anything about Trump's policies. I just voted for him. Nah, MAGA, you can't get away with that with me. right? Because you were too loud before the election about how it was going to make the country better. So when you hear MAGA say things like that, you know what that is? That's somebody that's a coward. They're afraid to stand up and align themselves visually, right? For everybody to know with all the crappy shit you see happening right now, they know it doesn't look good, but they don't have the backbone to still align themselves with it. So now it becomes, I didn't know no better. You knew enough to be loud about it before the election, so I know enough about it to keep calling you out on it now. Stop making these people feel comfortable. The problem is people like MAGA folk who go all in on stuff like that, and then when it gets really, really bad, they want to act like, well, I didn't know any better. You're not a child. You're a grown-ass adult. You're not a child. So I'm not going to treat you like one. And what do conservatives always talk about? Personal responsibility. And that's what I expect you to have too. But I'm not going to let any MAGA get away with, I didn't know. Well, you should have known, or you should have stayed your ass at home.
My problem is that these people, these MAGA voters, they vote for like billionaires, and there is this worship and idolatry of it, and it makes them feel empowered to vote against their own interests. And it's a really interesting case study.
Imagine being a teacher or a principal in a school in a red state which depends on funding, federal funding from the Department of Education, and still voting for Donald Trump. What am I talking about? Watch.
CNN analysis found the 15 states that most rely on federal funding for its public schools in 2022 all voted for Trump.
And I voted for President Trump.
I mean, you're an educator. You
Yes.
didn't vote for Trump eliminating federal funds.
No, I did not vote for that. I voted for President Trump to make America first again. If we have
You fell for a
federal
slogan.
cuts, then that's going to mean bigger classroom sizes. I would lose teachers, first and foremost. It's devastating.
I don't think that anyone in our county wants to cut our school funding. I don't think that anyone voted for that.
Do you mind if I ask who you voted for in the election?
I voted for Donald Trump.
We all know and understand that red states, the education is abysmal, that they are always on the bottom of the docket when it comes to test scores, reading levels. They are horrible. And here we have two educators that know that their states, their schools depend on federal funding, depend on them, yet they didn't bother to do the basic research of what their candidate was going to do. They fell for a slogan. Instead of listening to all the times Trump said he was going to get rid of the Department of Education, that he was going to go after LGBTQ people, that he was going to get rid of DEI, that he was going to do all of these things, and looking at the bills that have been happening in red states, instead of actually doing the minimal bit of research, they fell for a slogan and thought, well, I never thought that this would happen. So I guess these red states are just going to have to pick themselves up by the bootstraps, right? Because they voted for this, and now they're getting what they voted for. All my love.
The American flag stands for compassion, kindness, liberty, justice for all. We're all human, and today I'm asking for one human act of compassion to please let my dad come home.
Quick question. Did you think that the American flag stood for compassion and kindness when you voted for who you voted for? Because let me show you something.
And the science and experience we've developed here will live on through you. On behalf of the board, the leadership team, and myself personally, thank you for your passion, your ideas, and your perseverance. Perhaps more importantly, while we assembled phenomenal individuals together as a team, we fostered an even more phenomenal culture together. While war in its current state will not continue, our culture will ensure so many of these relationships will continue going forward, both professionally and personally. Your work mattered, it still matters.
That was my CEO, shutting down our entire company, where that man has dedicated his life to science and treating cancer patients such as your father. And we had to stop. All of us got laid off because of your vote. So let me ask you another question. Would you still regret your vote if this didn't happen to you personally? Because I went back a couple of videos on your page to find out where was the outrage when this happened to a child, an American child that was deported mid-cancer treatment. And what I saw on your page was you being hot. I didn't see you being outraged. I didn't see you being upset. I didn't see you speaking up. So your cry is not really regret or remorse. Your cry is entitlement. You're crying because you were told no. You're crying because they denied you. Because if they had accepted your father to stay here, you wouldn't regret your vote. You would think that your president was still your hero. Because the outrage, the remorse, and the regret should have started months ago when this was happening to other people. When this was happening to thousands of other people that also have families, that also have children, that also have wives. You didn't care back then. Now you care?
Lloyd, what's the message?
Jesus died on that cross so we could live, and this is not living.
Amen. I respect that.
And that's the thing, you all. Politics should be about making life better for everyday people, not protecting the rich while the poor suffer. But until folks start asking hard questions and really, looking at who benefits from the vote, the cycle is just going to keep repeating. Poor MAGA voters think they are fighting for freedom, but at the end of the day, they are the ones paying the highest price. Now, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Why do you think people keep voting against their own interest? I really want to hear your thoughts. And if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate. And don't forget to also subscribe to support the channel and hit that button so you don't miss when I drop the next one. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.